Now, hey everybody, Kyle John here with the Kyle John Home Selling Team and eXp Realty. And today's episode, I have a home inspector. I have John LaPointe and Carol LaPointe. Carol's somewhere in the room, or maybe out of the room for now, but it's John and Carol LaPointe with Home Probe Home Inspections. They've been around Red Deer area in business since 2006, and I personally have been using them myself for or referring them out to clients for about 8 years now, and they've always done a great job and always appreciated the work they've done. So what we're going to go over in this episode is, first we're going to go over the top most, I guess for buyers, the top most important tips or things that come up in home inspections for buyers. Plus, we're going to end the episode with just a little chat about pre-inspections for home sellers and how important that is, and I'll give my opinion on my take on that. And I just think it's a very great thing to do to get prepared to prepare a home for sale. Anyways, welcome, John.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm just great.
Great. Okay, so it's great to have you on here, John. So let's why don't you start it off, and let's start off with top 3 tips that if you give any home buyer what to look for in any kind of home inspection. Of course, we're going to probably touch on older homes. You know, newer homes, it's just your typical kind of stuff, but it'll all tie in with this, I think. So
Yeah, older homes there's always issues with old homes. People always say they sure don't build them like they used to, and I always say it's a good thing they don't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's things that can happen in a house over the years, and people can do renovations from time to time, and sometimes they don't do them right.
Yeah.
A lot of times the sewer lines go in on unsettled earth, so then they can sag and bulge. And some of the older sewer lines are tile, or some are even wrapped tar paper.
Mm-hmm.
And so they bubble and they collapse.
Mm-hmm.
And the other day we had one that had dropped away from the city line.
Mm-hmm.
That meant replacing the whole thing. So you know, with the failed sewer line, you can look up to $15,000 just to get it back in. So it's an important thing. It sounds expensive. They charge about $250, but it sounds real cheap compared to 15 grand.
Yeah, it's cheap insurance. And do you guys do the sewer inspections yourself?
No, we sub out the sewer inspectors.
Yeah.
We can do it with the camera, but we can't fix them. So I find it just better to sub out to somebody who can actually fix it, because they're going to scope it again with their own camera.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Anyways,
Yeah.
The other thing, when you get into an older home, they weren't as concerned in those days with ventilation and insulation and all those kind of things. So when you get in an attic, and they in the pre-70 era, they were using vermiculite, which has asbestos in. Most of it has asbestos in.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the sampling we've done, because our vermiculite came from a mine in Montana, and it was contaminated with asbestos.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the only spot. You know, the early stippling, the popcorn ceilings, they called it, were straight asbestos. So,
really? Actually, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. And so we take samples of those, but people get in there and they scrape that stuff off. As long as they don't touch it, it's fine.
Yeah.
As soon as they turn it into dust, asbestos particles are microscopic.
Mm-hmm.
And once you breathe them in, they don't come out anymore.
Oh, and asbestos is found in the tiles too, those old ceiling tiles as well, is it not?
Ceiling tiles and floor tiles. It was in the backing for lino. It was in drywall mud and drywall. It was in plaster, you know, because it gave it extra strength to it. It was just about everywhere. So if you are buying a home, it's a good idea to have samples taken for a little bit of drywall, a little bit of ceiling texture, some flooring, and just see what there is. Because when you shouldn't take them out yourself anymore. It's one of those things that it's not an instant illness. It can take several years, but when it comes, it kills you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what was I going to say there? I think it's one of those things where I know a lot of people, well, we're not going to do anything in the attic anyway, so we don't care because as long as it's not disturbed. But if you ever need a contractor up there to do any kind of electrical or whatever, they ain't going up there if it's if vermiculite's up there in the attic. So that's kind of the issue there that you want to think about.
And a lot of times people get into a house and a newer home has trusses, so you can
Mhm.
start taking out walls. But in
Yeah.
an older home in the 60s, we didn't have trusses yet. So they pull out a wall, the insulation comes down. Oh, well,
Hmm.
but that insulation is what's going to do you in.
Yeah. So what about in the walls?
Walls themselves, there's up until the 50s, they used even wood chips, but
Hmm.
then there was fiberglass batting. So
Hmm.
I've never seen personally asbestos inside the walls.
Oh, really?
But
Okay.
they used to wrap heat ducts with asbestos.
Hmm.
When you open a wall, you can find a heat duct that's wrapped with, it's a white, uh, meshy looking stuff, and that's asbestos wrap.
Okay. Okay.
And like they used it for I can remember watching my dad slab it onto the boiler to keep it insulated.
Hmm.
Just mixed it up with a stick and a pail
Oh, jeez.
because it was
Yeah.
normal.
Wow.
But now we know better now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's real expensive to get it remediated properly.
Yeah.
An attic can cost you 20,000 or more to get it cleaned up properly.
Yeah. I think the cheapest I've found is around 15 grand. I did have somebody do it for 4 grand one time, but there was something up with that. I think he disappeared. So
I remember that guy.
yeah, yeah. So I think that for somebody to do a good job to properly hire people to look after that and dispose of it, it's got to be, up to, because it's expensive to dispose of, and so that 15 grand seems like about the cheapest. 13 to 15 I've seen, anyways, but it can be up to 20 grand. It all depends, right? So
Yeah, that's more expensive in a multi-level house or
yeah.
in a place where they can't get at it. So they have
Hmm.
to start opening the ceiling and stuff.
Yeah.
So those costs get added in then.
Hmm.
But it is something to think about. You can have a house that looks like it's all fixed up and modern and
Yeah.
should have no problems, and you could run into, you know, the sewer line. You can run into asbestos and vermiculite. You can run into wiring that's not grounded,
Hmm.
which is quite common.
Yeah.
And a lot of older homes had only 50 or 70 amp breakers, which doesn't, most insurance companies won't cover it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
The 50 amp breaker, that doesn't cover your dryer and your stove.
Hmm.
So unless you want to live in a dark house.
Yeah. And what is that? That's probably about 3 grand, I think, to
Yeah.
replace.
Yeah. Because most of the time
Is that correct? I think. Yeah.
yeah, it's about 3 grand. Most of the time the service outside has to be changed. A lot of them came
Yeah.
there and it has to be 3 meters now.
Hmm.
So usually they put a mast on, they put a
Yep.
new meter head on, and then because the cable from the meter into the panel is too small.
Hmm.
So they have
Yeah.
to change that. So that's why it gets up there.
Okay. Okay. Let's touch up on foundations, because I always think that's an important one. People always, it seems like that most people's fear is the foundation half the time, or most of the time, right? But honestly, I haven't ran into any foundation issues in my 13 years of doing this yet. Maybe no, I haven't. It was a wider crack, but Crack Masters, that company in town, comes in and they fill it in, and it was all good, right? I've been told by inspectors, as long as mud isn't coming through or dirt, it's good. If there is a crack, I guess, of course, depends how wide the crack is. But let's touch on that.
Okay, the vertical cracks, I don't worry about so much, as long
Hmm.
as they're not displaced. And they're usually not because there's rebar in the wall.
Yeah.
And so they can be filled. And there is, like you say, there's guys that fix those and
Yeah.
they never crack again. I have two I've seen myself in the last years. that are horizontal cracks.
Mm-hmm.
Those are walkaway houses.
Yeah.
You know, a horizontal crack is from pressure on the outside, and there's no rebar going up and down.
Mm-hmm.
And usually it's hydro pressure, water pressure pushing on that wall. And the last one we found, the fella had got people in to put in a fancy sump system and everything. And he
Mm-hmm.
said they would guarantee it. So I got the buyer to call them, and they said, no way, nobody's going to guarantee a horizontal crack.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
and the other one, it was horizontal on all the walls, and water was coming in everywhere
Mm-hmm.
up in the valley. And so the only solution there was to jack the house up and put a new basement.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, part of the problem in the older homes, they didn't have any weeping tile.
Yeah.
You know, and so that water can stay pushing against the outside of a basement.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got a clay all around it, what you've made is a kind of a bag for it to stay there and push. And the water pressure is pretty mean. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it cracks that. And
Yeah.
it turns into a water spout coming in. So,
Okay. Yeah.
so having those things checked out
Yeah.
is pretty important.
Yeah, and on that note, you have moisture meters that you can put up against the wall for any moisture and
We
anything
have
on.
moisture meters, but our biggest and my most favorite tool is a thermal imager.
Yeah. Okay.
It measures temperature. So if there's moisture inside that wall, it can see it in those shapes. And
Yeah.
you can see leaks in a
Yeah.
wall pretty readily. It's just my favorite piece of equipment all the time.
Yeah.
Cost the same as my first house, but
Yeah. 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 All right. Okay. Next, I want to touch upon where a lot of people don't really know about or they don't think of to do this, but a big thing that I like to do with my home sellers or recommend to my home sellers is a pre-inspection before they list the home, and that's paid for by the home seller, which it gives the home a clean bill of health to any buyer. You know, and the little things are fixed, so there's no surprises when it comes to condition day, home inspection day. So pre-inspections to me are very important to sell any house, I believe. What do you have to say about that?
well, I've done quite a few of them, and it comes down to money.
Yeah.
Because the buyer can always get his own inspection.
Mm-hmm.
But if he goes in there, if his inspector goes in and you haven't had a pre-inspection done, and he finds a whole bunch of stuff, the buyer can walk away or want 10,000 off.
Yeah.
You know, it works. You know, if I go in there, or any home inspector goes in there and does a pre-inspection and points out all the deficiencies,
Yeah.
you've got an opportunity then to fix them.
Yeah. See, that's the big thing. We need that, you know, you get the seller gets the opportunity to know what's wrong, get it fixed instead of being backed in a corner to 2 weeks after financing and home inspection conditions, and you got a buyer, but they're, you know, take $4,000 off or we're out of here. And, you know, so it's kind of saves you from being backed in a corner, right?
Yeah. I've done quite a few, and I used to go in and then fix those things for people.
Yeah.
But I don't anymore. But I have, you know, usually realtors have people they can refer to get things fixed up.
Yeah.
And I just think it's worth every nickel.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Sometimes people will use that same inspection, and they'll just ask me to come back in, make sure everything was done.
Yeah. So let's talk about price. Let's start with for a buyer. What do you charge for a home inspection for a buyer?
We charge $500.
$500. Okay. So what about a pre-inspection for a seller?
Seller's $500 too.
Yeah. But
the buyer then wants to come in. It's half
price.
Half price.
Okay. Yep. So that's perfect. That's great. That's a good. Yeah. It's just the way. That's my favorite is having a home seller prepared with a home inspection, and then you know the buyer can he has the option, he can get his own home inspector in there, or he could save $250 by using you to kind of review it with you.
Yeah, I'd go over the whole house again. What
Yeah.
that does, that home inspection for the seller is for the seller.
Mm-hmm.
So my liability to the buyer is nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Gotcha.
if I go in and go over it with them, make sure everything's done right or is going to be done right.
Yeah.
For that $250, then my contract is with the buyer.
Yeah. You
And
betcha.
so then all the liability is with me again.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I know we basically talked about older homes, but newer homes, you go in there, you go into the attic, you check for leaks, you check shingles, you go up on the roof, you check windows for leaks, you check for any rotting around the windows, siding issues, all kinds of things. So I know we kind of spent a lot of time with on the older stuff, but then you do the same thing with the newer stuff. Of course, there's no vermiculite to deal with, or old wiring and all that stuff. But there's always the basics that you kind of do with every house. So it goes both ways. So I think we're about to. That's it. We're going to wrap this up here. How do people get a hold of you? What's your phone number, John?
Our business phone number is 403-318-9181.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And if you go to our website, homeprobealberta.com,
Okay.
you can book right off the website.
Yeah.
Contact us and we'll get back to you right away.
Yeah, right on. So John and Carol Lapointe with Home Probe Home Inspections out of Red Deer. They do a great job. Give them a call, and they'll be able to get you in for a home inspection. All right, Kate, that's all I have for this episode. John, thanks for joining me. Have a great day, and actually, have a Merry Christmas. We're about 6 days from Christmas, aren't we? So.
Oh, yeah. I got to make some more butter tarts.
Oh yeah, butter tarts. Home inspection tomorrow. Bring those butter tarts, okay?
Okay. Thanks, Kyle.
Yeah, okay. Have a good one. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.